using a carefully selected panel of normal thinking, hard-working people, not including corporate marketeers or anyone that has the words culture, human, or diversity in their job title, or any other political activist. We have developed a helpful 10-point scale to identify where people sit along the racism spectrum. Where do you sit? Let us know in the comments. Especially if you come in at number 10. 1. The vulnerable. Vulnerable people are often targeted by radicals to begin the process of thinking about racial ideas. They can be any age, from toddler to fully grown adult. Academic institutions and people that work for technology companies, especially with words like diversity, culture, people, and human in their job title, have been shown to be particularly vulnerable. 2. The engager. Engagement is the first step towards people beginning to think about racial ideas, from the media and other people. The engager might digest the notion of systemic racism by thinking about the number of times each day that they see a person banned, for example, from sitting down on a bus because of their skin color. Or, they might start to wonder how one person of a particular skin color being killed by a policeman could lead to all people of that skin color being killed by all policemen. 3. The common human. Most people in Western civilization fall into this category. Having been exposed to the notion of racism and racial ideas, most people don't see racial differences as something of a priority in order to form their own personal values, therefore have no further interest in race issues. The common human is usually preoccupied by work, family, and their own individual interests. This apathy is often interpreted as being racist by actual racists. 4. The agreeable communicator. The agreeable communicator starts to develop opinions on race from the opinions of others, and begins to engage in simple race-based dialogue. At this stage, there is plasticity in opinions, which are weakly held, and they are open to exploring new information on race. 5. The intellectual communicator. The intellectual communicator holds a highly developed, non-discriminatory understanding of racial issues and sociology, which has been formed by careful consideration of facts laid out in front of them. They are always willing to engage in new ideas and always open to discussion. The intellectual communicator will also demonstrate a highly developed personal value structure, which includes integrity, curiosity, and correctness. Intellectual communicators are lifelong learners. 6. The defensive. The defensive begins to invest in the promotion of single words, such as diversity and equality, while at the same time showing signs of intolerance of diverse opinions, or diversity of thought. The defensive is unique on this list because it can emerge from a position of almost no learning on racial issues to a position of advanced racial literacy, which becomes distorted by the temptation of perceived altruism, which all becomes too much to resist. The linear trajectory of thoughts by the defensive frequently gains unpreventable momentum into the upper end of the racism spectrum, towards a single, more dangerous idea. 7. The oblivious racist. The oblivious racist is usually well-intentioned, but paradoxically, exhibits the hallmarks of the traditional interpretation of a racist, to the letter. Although oblivious to their state, the behaviors of an oblivious racist are often hidden by the inverse nature of the relationship. The oblivious racist will often discriminate against people within their own racial group to promote or demote people of one race, above or below another, often in an effort to be seen to police historical injustices. The racist behavior can be seen in the symmetry of behavior between the oblivious racist and the traditional interpretation of a racist. For example, the oblivious racist discriminates within a racial group. The traditional racist operates across racial groups. Both social outcomes are the same. Although the core value of the oblivious racist is altruism, it is usually accompanied by a form of narcissistic personality disorder, and includes a large subgroup of people with a scrambled definition compass, which gives rise to a distorted sense of the meaning of the word racist. This is a side effect of overthinking the meaning of racism, leading to the identification of anything from inanimate objects to war veterans that have fought against the tyranny of entire racist regimes as racist. This can manifest more extreme activism. 8. Radicalized. Radicalized people are heavily invested and irreversibly engaged in identity politics. But, importantly, from a single viewpoint, with an unwillingness to discuss ideas that threaten the ideology which they have invested in. Today, the emergence of mainstream oblivious racism has the full protection from government agency, because government does not recognize the paradoxical and inverse nature of oblivious racism, which is hidden by an altruistic mask. While there is mass mobilization of a dangerous new form of white-on-white racism infecting the West, FBI resources remain heavily invested in white supremacist activity, and includes a growing subgroup of the population with a much looser definition of racism, lowering the bar for people and even inanimate objects to be labeled racist. By loosening the definition of racism, membership of extremist groups, such as Antifa, has risen exponentially. 9. Violent extremism. Violent extremists engage in physical confrontation with anyone that is in opposition to its own ideology. The Center for Strategic and International Studies cites growing violent extremist threats in the United States, coming from white supremacists, anarchists, and to a lesser degree religious extremism. Since 1994, there has been one death each month linked to white supremacy groups. Over the same period of time, racially motivated violence has increased, together with a broadened societal definition of what racism means, making it impossible to interpret each data point on an equal footing. With a pathological obsession to stop racism against blacks, the net result has seen an overall increase in racially motivated hate crime, with an increased proportion of crimes against whites, and a reduction in white-on-black crime. Has the fight against racism made racism a self-fulfilling prophecy? Has the net effect of violent extremism only provided collateral damage and allowed a new form of racism to emerge, completely unchallenged? 10. Woke. Wokeism takes thinking beyond the dangers of violent extremism to form the ultimate racial threat to Western civilization through ideological subversion. It uses distributed targeting methods to facilitate total societal restructuring of academic, corporate, and governmental hierarchies to manage the widespread appeal of altruism with the mask of oblivious racism. Ideological subversion is a communist tactic, also known as the Great Brainwashing Device. It is unclear how the outcomes of wokeism will manifest, but the dynamics of change are already showing signs of an overhaul of core societal values in the West, moving away from having power in the hands of the individual, towards censorship and being told what to do, and how to think, by groups. The woke are also lobbying dictionary publishers to loosen the definition of racism, which could have the net result of recruiting more people into violent extremist groups.